Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad-gita as it is, chapter 6, Sankhya Yoga, text number 24. Sanischayena yuktavyo yoga nirvina chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams tyaktva sarvan asheshitaha manasavendriya gramam viniyamya samantata sanischayena yuktavyo yoga nirvina chetasa sankalpa pravan kamams tyaktva sarvan asheshataha manasavendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. Sayuktayena yuktavyo yoga nirvina chetasaha sankalpa pravan kamams tyaktva sarvam asheshataha manasavendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. Sayuktavyena yuktavyo yoga nirvina chetasa sankalpa pravan karmams tyaktva sarvam asheshataha manasayendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. Ladies. Sanischayena yuktavyo yoga nirvina chetasa sankalpa pravan karmans anyone else? Manasavendriya gramam sa that nischayena with firm determination yoktavyo must be practiced. Yoga system. Anivina chetasa without deviation. Sankalpa mental speculations. Pravan born of. Kaman material desires. Tyaktva giving up. Sarvam all. Asheshitaha completely. Manasa, by the mind. Eva, certainly. Indriyagramam, the full set of senses. Viniyamya, regulating. Samantata, from all sides. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation, thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Purport. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end, and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha nischaya daryat tat tat karma pravartanat sangatyaktva sato vrite shadvir bhakti prasidyati. One can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance, and determination, by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees, by engaging completely in activities of goodness. Upadeshamrita 3. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal, but the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate toward his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs. These he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job, but if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help, for God helps those who help themselves. So the text again. Sinischayena yuktavyo yoga nirvina chetasaha sankalpa pravang kamans tyaksva sarvam asheshitaha manasavendriya gramam viniyamya samantata. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith, and might not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation, thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskadyade Siddharane. In the previous verse, Lord Krishna has explained what the perfection is and how it's achieved. And now he's breaking it down in its different components. Previously, Krishna said, Yatra Yatro paramite chitam niruda yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashanatmini tushati sukama yanti tad buddhigrayam atendriya vedi yatra shaivayam statam chalti tatvataha yam lava chapalam lavam manite nadikam tata yasmin sitona dukena gruna pivichalyate tam vidya sukasam yogam viyogam yogasam gitaha. That state of perfection is called trance samadhi, when one's mind is completely refrained from all material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in that self. In that transcendental state, in that joyous state, one is situated in balanced transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. Upon gaining this, one thinks that there is no greater gain. Being so situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. There is indeed actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So there's the perfection. Easy enough to read what perfection is. It seems almost unattainable. Being situated in balanced transcendental happiness, enjoying through transcendental senses, not being shaken even in the greatest difficulty. But there's a process, even in the Ashtanga Yoga process, and here it begins with Naischayana yuktavyo yoga nirvana cetasa sanischayana yuktavyo yoga nirvana cetasa sankalpa pravan karmas tyaktva saramasheshita manasavendriya gramam vinayamya samantata. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. So this is not the first time Krishna is mentioning this in the Bhagavad-gita, nor will it be the last time. It's just explained in different ways, in different chapters, under different headings. For instance, in the second chapter, Krishna had said, Arjuna had asked Krishna to tell him what is the symptom of a self-realized person. Arjuna vacha, stita pragasya ka bhasha samadhi stasya keshava Sitidi kim prabhasheta kim asita brajeta kim. What is the symptoms, Krishna says, of a person who's self-realized? How does he walk? How does he talk? And what is his language? How does he sit also? So this is Krishna, Arjuna is not asking how he sits. Does he sit in lotus position or siddhasana? They're actually internally. Arjuna wants to know what the eternal symptoms are. Now we may think, for instance, how do we judge? We were having discussion at the GVC meeting, and I was mentioning that according to Srila Prabhupada, that an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava has a special position as a guru. And one of the presenters said that, how do we know who's a Uttama Adhikari? Do we have a thermometer to judge? No, we have our intelligence to judge. And if we can't judge, it means we don't have any intelligence, that's all. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita are supposed to give us intelligence. If we have no intelligence, then either we should ask someone who has intelligence, or we should try to search through scripture so we can gain some intelligence. But if we can't tell who's on what platform, then we're just in ignorance, that's all. So we can understand what platform we're on, at least, that we're in ignorance. We're on the lowest platform. But it's to judge by praja, as Krishna said, First of all, he says to Arjuna, Prajahiti yada kaman saram parthamanogatan anmani vatmana tushta sita pragastatochite. Person who gives up all desire is born of mental speculation, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he's said to be situated in transcendence. In other words, if we want to meditate on Krishna at all, then we have to give up prajahati yada kama saram parthamanogatan. Desire is born of mental speculation. What does that mean? It means although we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to mate and defend, but the purpose of life is not to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. It is not that if we make advancement in what we eat or how much we eat, that we're making advancement. Or how much we sleep is not making advancement. If we sleep on a nice bed rather than on the floor, it's not any advancement. Any more advancement than if we take prasadam on the first floor of a building, or we take prasadam on the 100th floor of a building, there's no difference. Similarly, mating and defending are not material necessities. Well, they may be material necessities, but the aim of life is not to increase our ability to mate and defend. As a matter of fact, according to Bhagavad-gita, the desires of sense gratification, if they're not connected to reality, they take away our intelligence, our spiritual intelligence. The more we serve our false ego, the more our spiritual intelligence diminishes. Our ability to perceive that we're eternal, our connection with Paramatma within the heart who guides us and tells us how to go back to Krishna diminishes the more we engage in satisfying the senses, the more the voice of Paramatma becomes dim, the more we become inclined to sense gratification. Dhyayato vishayam pumso, sangas te shupajayate, sangas sanjayate kama, kama krodo pajayate. Kroda bhavati samoha, samaha smriti vibram sat, smriti vibram sat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashati. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. In the absence of Krishna consciousness, then we're going to contemplate some object of the senses. It's inevitable. We have to have some engagement. And when we find the object we're looking for, then we become attached to it in some way. This is the one. Let me try it out, see what it's like. Therefore, advertisement is simply meant to make something which is insignificant attractive. Darashya ye bahir artamanina. Something that's, therefore they can advertise anything. Pair of pants, some socks, some beer, as something that's going to save us and bring us to the platform of transcendental heaven. If you drink that beer, then your life will become perfect. You'll be above all material existence. And then people think, well, let me try it out. The person in the advertisement was happy. Actually, they used to have this cigarette, I think, Marlboro. And there was always a cowboy smoking the cigarette. He was smiling, and the horse was smiling. Everyone was smiling. But the fact is, he developed lung cancer and he died, and so did the horse. So it wasn't a happy ending. Although the advertisement was such that everyone's horse probably, and everyone was smoking, and probably they followed the same path as the person who was advertising for Marlboros. The only one who actually benefited was the doctors in the hospital who were treating them. But by clever advertisement, people think that something insignificant is actually worthy of attention, worthy of trying to engage our senses to experience whatever pleasure we can derive from such an object. So one has to be able to recognize what is the difference between a necessity and simply a whimsical desire. And because people are not engaged in any higher activity, they've given up all varieties of religion. Unfortunately, they haven't surrendered to Krishna. Because therefore, the only thing left is some variety of sense gratification. They're not engaging in any devotional activity. Even they go to the church on Sunday in some parts of the world, then on Sunday they have a barbecue. They're killing some poor animal in the name of religion. As a matter of fact, on Christmas, Christian holiday, that's when people have a marathon of sinful activities. They're killing some animal, they're taking intoxication, or they're eating some dead animal, they're taking some intoxication, talking all kinds of nonsense, and we can go on and on. But it's not exactly a celebration of a proper celebration for a saintly person's appearance. Could you imagine on Janmashtami everyone got drunk? Killed a few hopeless, poor animals like rabbits or something, and ate them in front of the deities. I mean, what to speak of anything else? Would that be celebrating the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Yes, people are so full that they don't understand. They think Jesus Christ or anyone else, Muhammad, they're simply instruments for their sense gratification. Otherwise, they have no interest in religion. Matter of fact, people used to go to the church and pray, "My dear Lord, give me my daily bread." But now they can simply go to the bank and get a loan and buy bread with it. So they don't need God anymore. But one has to discriminate, and even the yogis, they have some idea what Paramatma looks like. They have some idea of that the goal is to meditate on him, and if they could actually capture him within their hearts and meditate on him, then they can experience boundless transcendental happiness enjoyed with transcendental senses. It's not that they start completely in ignorance what they're looking for, and then by some millions of years later, oh look, there's a little guy in my heart with 4 arms. They know from the start what the goal is, and they know that gradually by concentrating on that mind, even on their conception of the super soul, then gradually they'll be able to experience what the super soul is like. Therefore, it starts, this particular description, it starts with a description of what the experience is, so that one will become enthusiastic to apply one's determination to achieve it. And even for the yogis, every step there's a higher taste. Whether it's yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, every step is a higher taste because there's more and more freedom from material sense gratification and more concentrating in the mind upon Krishna. The more the mind becomes free from material conceptions, the more free it becomes, then the more one feels peace and transcendental happiness. Even if it's only Brahman at the beginning, but ultimately the yogi, if he understands things properly, will actually concentrate on Krishna. As Paramatma, just like Kardama Muni did, after meditating for 10,000 years, he was able to perceive Krishna within his heart. Although Vishwamitra Muni, because he didn't have the proper instruction. He was doing it because he was meditating, because he wanted to become a Brahmin and defeat the Vishista Muni. Because he didn't have the proper... Therefore, even after it took him 180,000 years just to come to the mode of goodness. Obviously, we don't have 180,000 years to spare. We don't even have 180 years. We might have 18 years. So the process that's being described here, Arjuna is not going to accept, although theoretically it's actually a bona fide process. It's the same process that we have to go through, but we're going through in a different way, as Prabhupada explains here. because we don't have to meditate upon Krishna within our heart. We can meditate on the holy name. We can meditate on the deities. And eventually, by such activities, Krishna will appear within our heart spontaneously. That if we develop bhakti, then Krishna will gladly come into our heart. We don't have to, by determination and force of the mind, try to capture Krishna within the heart. But by loving devotional service, Krishna gladly comes into the heart. Remembrance of Krishna. Krishna coming to the heart means that if we have the proper attitude, if we become like Krishna, like the devotees in Krishna's pastime, then naturally, being the same quality as Krishna, naturally we'll be able to remember Krishna. Just like if you want to enter into water, you have to become like a fish. If you want to enter into the sun, you have to become like fire. So if we want to enter into Krishna consciousness, then we have to become just like Krishna and his devotees, qualitatively. We have to gradually develop the same qualities. And our process is the same process. Recognize that sense gratification is not the goal of life, although regulating the senses is necessary. Therefore, we're given prasadam to eat, food offered to Krishna, so that when we're eating the prasadam, we can think that this is Krishna's prasadam. He's given it to us. It has been offered to Krishna. Therefore, it's bona fide to eat it, and we should eat it with some spirit of devotion. Not simply, oh, this prasadam. We should not eat it like an animal, a starving animal. No, it should be, even taking prasadam should be done devotionally. Just like, and then if we control our minds when we're taking prasadam, then we'll be able to control our minds when we're chanting Hare Krishna also. It's not that one moment, during the day we act like an animal, a starved animal. And then we sit down like, we come in, we take our halo, put it on, we sit down peacefully and chant Hare Krishna. No, the more we consistently act in devotion throughout the day, then when we're chanting Hare Krishna, then we'll also be able to come to the same state of consciousness and chant with devotion. And if we do that, then we'll be able to remember Krishna naturally, spontaneously. And if we act in some other mode, that's what we'll remember. If we act in the mode of passion, then we'll remember all the things that we've done in the mode of passion. It is very difficult to act in the mode of passion and at the same time think of Krishna with devotion. Of course, if we're doing something that requires passion, then of course, as a bona fide activity, like Arjuna was fighting, he was not in the mode of goodness, throwing arrows as if he was throwing, love songs at the opposing party. Oh, here's a heart. I love you. Here's my gift for today, Valentine's Day, right into your heart. No, Arjuna but he was doing it for Krishna. Therefore, he was not actually involved in the activity. He wasn't doing it out of envy, he was doing it out of service to Krishna. And therefore, the energy, even if he was it was so-called passion, it was transcendental passion, because Krishna was present. Therefore, he was in ecstasy during the battle of Kurukshetra. So much so that when Karna was shooting arrows at Krishna, Arjuna, according to the Nectar of Devotion, stepped in front of Krishna, his charioteer, and the arrows hit his body, but they felt like flowers hitting him. Obviously, a different consciousness than when we get into a fight. We get into a fight, when someone hits us in the head, punches us, we don't think, oh, this is like a flower hitting me. But if one is in devotional consciousness, like Arjuna, then everything is devotional, even fighting. In any case, for ourselves at the present moment, better not to fight. Better try to be peaceful, have a peaceful society, be friends with everyone, even if they're not friends with us. Be in devotional consciousness as much as possible. And then when we chant Hare Krishna, we can do it with some devotion, asking Krishna to engage us in his loving service. Now, if we want to fight with someone, just like when I was in the airport in Chicago, we got used to fighting with people. So distributing books was exciting, but we were always looking forward to the workers coming and fighting with us, just to get a little bit of our passion off. And indeed, Krishna would usually arrange it that someone would come and fight with us every day. But it wasn't very productive, actually. Matter of fact, we were working in such a way that we were spending as much time fighting as distributing books. Until finally we had to leave the airport. It was us against the world. And we lost. So the point is we should try to act as much as possible. In devotion, there are circumstances when passion is merited, like if a devotee is attacked or the deities are attacked, etc. Then we could defend them. But otherwise, we shouldn't see everyone as an opportunity for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We have to give up that mentality. That's called things that's born out of mental speculation. If we can give them up, then there's space in there to remember Krishna. And then when we hear the Hare Krishna mantra, we can listen. But if our minds are absorbed in all kinds of speculations, he is my enemy and I have killed him, my other enemy will also be killed, I'm the Lord of everything, I'm perfect, powerful, and happy, I'm surrounded by rich and aristocratic relatives, there's no one so powerful and happy as I am, I shall perform some sacrifice, I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. So this, Krishna says, is simply products of mode of ignorance. It's not ours. They're not our enemies. We're not going to kill anyone. Everyone's eternal. It's all mental speculation. So we give up those things and try to see things in relation with the Shastra and try to act in relation with the Shastra. Then we'll be able to think about Krishna, because there's nothing but Krishna in his energies. And if we don't do that, if we don't cultivate that, then we're not going to go anywhere in devotional service. If we don't make a determination to give up our mental speculation and accept Krishna consciousness, doesn't matter how many artis we go to, how many Mangala artis, doesn't matter how many rounds we chant, we don't have determination to give up our mental speculation, our desires for sense gratification, and all the other mental speculations we have, then we can't make any progress. It's like the anchor, keeping the anchor. The boat won't go anywhere if the anchor is still there. So we have to have some determination to give these things up, and determination to fix our minds on Krishna with appreciation, with a proper attitude. Not that I'm determined, I'm just going to listen. No, we have to be also determined to develop the proper attitude in Krishna consciousness, some appreciation, some service, some idea of appreciating and acting with some desire to please Krishna and his devotees. And then the result is that we'll develop the skill of interpersonal relationships in Krishna consciousness, and therefore be able to absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness and come to the platform of the character of a pure devotee. Pure devotees don't fight with the other devotees whimsically. They don't engage in all kinds of whimsical activities. They don't eat too much or eat too little, sleep too much or sleep too little. They're temperate in their habits. They're engaged mostly in the loving exchanges with the devotees, serving Krishna with determination, serving the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. This is the character of a devotee. And if we're not acting like that, then we have some other character. We're a character, but maybe not a devotional character. So I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Our Prabhupada was Prabhupada said one time that we should take a room in the Gurukul because people would like to practice yoga, and we should put a kusha grass on the floor of that room and cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth and let people go in there and they can look at their nose and meditate if they want to practice yoga like that. Of course, they never did it, nor did anyone ever come to do that. People think practicing yoga is just, if you can touch your toe to your nose, then you're in samadhi. Of course, you should take your sock off before you do that. You may pass out when you... Or you can put your leg behind your head, then you're almost there. But that's not yoga. It's not even yogurt. It's complete concoction. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna, thanks for the lecture. So the question is, why do we sometimes lose the taste for chanting? Even if you're chanting regularly, like every day and trying, but still there are some days that it's just hard to chant. Why is this happening?
Well, there are three modes of material nature, and they're always changing. We have our karma, which is quite subtle. We're inexplicably, we're going from one phase of our karmic reaction to the next. So sometimes we go through a phase where we're on the elevating stage. We're going up. And when we get there, we think, well, I made it, I might as well take a vacation. I'm already there. I'm better than everyone. We get a little proud and puffed up, we get a little lazy, become a little bit not so diligent. We become a little relaxed. And then lo and behold, we're back in the lower modes of material nature again. We went, how did I get there? Same way we always get there. It's not anything new. We ate too much, or we start to speculate too much, or we offended a devotee, or we slept too much, or we start to play some game or something. And then we wonder, how does this happen? Same way it always happens. By becoming inattentive, especially to the chanting, inattentive to the process, taking it for granted. And then we think, well, it doesn't work. It does work. Maya works quite well. The process of devotional service works. The process of material existence works just as well. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for lecture. I wanted to ask to what degree we can change our character, because sometimes some things are very hard to change, and some people we can see are for years the same challenges, the same things. So how, to what degree?
Well, first of all, we have to be willing to change our character. If we think we have such a nice character, I wouldn't want to change anything about myself because I'm already perfect, powerful and happy. So the last thing I want to do is change something that's already perfect. Then it's very difficult. Prabhupada said if you're asleep, it's easy to wake up someone who's asleep. But if someone's actually awake, you try to wake them up, but they're pretending to be asleep, it's very hard to wake them up. So we're convinced that I'm something special, and that if I advance in Krishna consciousness, I'll become degraded. My false ego will be hurt, and I'll become degraded, because no longer I'll feel special anymore. That special taste I feel because how nice I am, how much I love myself. Self-esteem is that I'm cultivating that. Krishna consciousness is just the cherry on the top of my false prestige that I'm cultivating. Not only I'm great, not only, but I'm also humble. Such a great person myself can also be humble sometimes. So we like to keep feeling great, even when we pretend that we're humble. Therefore it's very difficult to actually become humble, or even know what real humility is. Just imagine if we're trying to realize Krishna, who's the source of everything, how humble one has to become. But that's the last thing we want to do, is become really humble. So whatever Krishna wants, be able to do it. Like that devotee, the Brahmin, Krishna came in the nectar devotion and asked for half his body. And his wife and children sawed off half his body. We're not prepared for that right now. Although that's quite extreme. Krishna's not going to ask us to do that, I hope. But that's an indication of how much the devotee is prepared to sacrifice. Or Prahlad Maharaj telling his father that he's a fool, the person who the demigods are afraid of. Telling Hiranyakashipu asked him, "What did you learn in school, Prahlad?" And Prahlad Maharaj said, "The best thing I've learned in school, my dear father, is that you're number one fool." We're not prepared to do that on behalf of Krishna, so we do little things for Krishna, that's all. And gradually it may build up, become a little humble. Therefore we bow down, not as a yoga exercise. We're supposed to bow down out of humility. Consciously bow down. And therefore people can't understand it, because they don't want to bow down before anyone. See the devotees bow down, they think, well, these people are slaves or something. You know? They bow down even before plants. They're really strange. Because they don't want to bow down before anything. Anything else? Kuala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.